Hello, everyone. Today, we're tackling one of the most confusing, debated, and misunderstood topics in fitness and nutrition: protein. How much do you actually need? If you look online, you'll see some people telling you to eat mountains of meat, while official government guidelines tell you that you barely need any. So, who's right? Today, we're diving deep into the actual science to figure out exactly how much protein you need based on your specific body, your age, and your training goals. If you want to go straight to the dose recommendations, there will be timestamps in the description. But for now, I'll be discussing the context so we can all understand why there are many different recommendations. In the slides, you will see like numerical citations. You see this one after wartime, right? This will correspond to their numbered citation on the reference slide if you want to study more. At the end of the video is where the reference page is going to be. All right, so let's get into it. In 1941, during World War II, the U.S. government needed to create basic nutrition guidelines to make sure people didn't starve during food rationing, which is how we got the first recommended dietary allowances, or RDAs. To figure out the protein RDA, scientists used something called nitrogen balance. Since protein contains nitrogen, they basically measured how much nitrogen people ate, subtracted how much they lost when they went to the bathroom, and found the absolute bare minimum intake to break even. That minimum was 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. But here's the catch. That number was strictly designed for sedentary people, or basically inactive people, just to survive and prevent a clinical deficiency. Therefore, it was never meant for athletes. By the 1990s, sports scientists realized we had a massive problem. Applying that 0.8 gram standard to athletes made zero sense. When you exercise, you sweat out nitrogen, right? You break down muscle tissue, and your body requires extra raw materials to rebuild. The old nitrogen balance method was flawed because it overestimated how much protein active people were keeping and vastly underestimated what they were burning off. Simply put, surviving is not the same thing as thriving, and athletes need way more protein to perform. So modern science threw out the old nitrogen balance method and created a new gold standard called the integrated amino acid oxidation method, or IAAO. It sounds incredibly complex, but the concept is simple. Scientists feed people specific safely tagged amino acids and measure their breath. They slowly increase the person's protein intake until the amount of tagged amino acids exhaled and their breath drops to its absolute lowest point. When that drop happens, it proves the body is using all the protein to build muscle to its absolute maximum capacity. And guess what? This new method definitively proved that active people need significantly more protein than the old RDA told us. So let's talk numbers. If your goal is to build high quality muscle and get stronger, meta-analysis of hundreds of studies show you should aim for 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. But here's a cool trick of human physiology. The benefits follow an economic model of diminishing returns. If your diet is terrible and you bump your protein up to 1.3 grams per kilogram, you will see rapid massive muscle gains. However, pushing your intake past 1.3 all the way up to 2.2 will still get you more muscle, though the extra gains become smaller and smaller the higher you go, right? So you get diminishing returns after 1.3 grams. Now, what if you are a runner, a cyclist, or a swimmer? Endurance athletes historically ignore protein and focus entirely on carbs for energy, right? But that is a huge mistake. Prolonged cardio generates massive metabolic stress, actually burns amino acids for energy, accounting up for about 6% of the total energy cost of your run. Plus, your body has to rebuild the cellular powerhouses in your muscles called mitochondria. Because of this, modern research shows endurance athletes need a baseline of 1.8 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight every single day just to recover. Next, we have to bust one of the biggest myths in fitness, the idea that your body can only absorb 20 to 30 grams of protein in a single meal, and that anything extra is wasted or turns to fat. In December 2023, a groundbreaking study completely destroyed this myth. Researchers gave subjects a massive 100-gram dose of protein after a workout and tracked exactly where it went. They found that there is virtually no upper limit to how much protein your muscles can use. Your body doesn't waste that 100-gram steak. It simply takes much longer to digest it, keeping your body in a muscle building state for over 12 hours. Now let's look at this image right here. On the left, we have postprandial protein handling, which tracks exactly where the protein goes after you drink it. Look at the massive 100-gram dose on the right side of that chart. The protein doesn't just disappear or turn to waste. A huge 53% stays in your circulation ready to be used, and 13% is physically incorporated right into your muscle. Now look at the chart on the right, myofibrillar protein synthesis, which measures actual muscle building. The 100-gram dose resulted in a significantly higher muscle building rate than the 25-gram dose. The researchers proved that the body doesn't waste massive meals. It just takes a much longer time to digest them, keeping your body in an active muscle building state for over 12 hours. Because your body is so smart at slowing down digestion to absorb large meals, your total daily protein intake is way more important than how you split it up. If you like eating 4 or 5 small meals a day, right? That's like the average bodybuilder advice. Aiming for about zero point 0.4 grams of protein per kilogram per meal is a great strategy to keep muscle synthesis spiked all day. But if you prefer intermittent fasting or just eating 2 massive meals, you can totally do that without worrying about losing muscle as long as you hit your daily total goal. Now take a look at this graph, which perfectly illustrates how your daily eating habits affect muscle growth. The dotted line across the middle represents muscle protein synthesis saturation, which sits at about zero point 0.4 grams of protein per kilogram of your body weight. Hitting this means you have completely maxed out your muscle building trigger, or specifically leucine. For those of you who don't know what leucine is, it's the key that starts muscle protein synthesis. If you don't consume enough leucine in one sitting, the protein you consume may be used for other metabolic needs, not muscle repair, and obviously this can lead to muscle loss. That's why it's important to understand the amino acid content in different protein sources, not just the total protein from the volume of food you eat. So let's look at the blue bars on the left on the graph, okay? This labeled typical protein intake. This represents how most people eat. A tiny bit of protein at breakfast, a little at lunch, and a massive amount at dinner. Because of this uneven spread, they only cross that muscle building threshold once a day. Now look at the red bars on the far right. This person is eating an optimal 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram a day, but they're spreading it evenly. By eating exactly zero point 0.4 grams per kilogram at breakfast, lunch, dinner, and a snack, they cross that dotted line and trigger muscle growth 4 separate times a day. Now, things change drastically when you're trying to lose weight. When you eat in a calorie deficit, your body panics and tries to burn your own muscle tissue for energy. To build a shield around your muscles, you have to drastically increase your protein. In a famous 2016 study, researchers put fit young men on a brutal 40% calorie deficit but fed them a massive 2.4 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. The results were insane. Despite starving, they didn't lose any muscle. In fact, they gained 1.2 kilos of muscle while shedding 4.8 kilograms of pure fat. Protein is your best friend when you're dieting. As we get older, our bodies develop something called anabolic resistance, right? This means aging muscles become incredibly stubborn and don't respond to protein as easily as young muscles do. If a 20-year-old and a 7-year-old eat the same exact piece of chicken, the 7-year-old builds less muscle. That old zero point 0.8 gram survival standard is dangerously low for the elderly. To prevent frailty and stay independent, older adults need a bare minimum of 1 to 1.2 grams per kilogram, and active seniors should be aiming for up to 2 grams, just like younger athletes. So if you get injured and end up in a cast or on bed rest, your muscles will start to atrophy or shrink, right? Basically, just muscle loss. And it will occur like incredibly fast. And injured muscles act just like aging muscles. They become temporarily resistant to protein. So, in order to overcome this and prevent severe muscle wasting while you heal, clinical experts suggest bumping your daily protein intake up to 2 grams per kilogram. And make sure that you're eating larger concentrated doses of 35 to 40 grams per meal to force the injured tissue to respond. Finally, let's talk about a real world hack: sleep nutrition. When you sleep for 8 hours, your body's fasting, which means it starts breaking down a little bit of muscle to keep your organs running, right? So, in order to stop this, researchers found that consuming 30 to 40 grams of a slow digesting protein like casein, which is present in like milk, yogurt, and a bunch of other dairy products. If you consume casein about 30 minutes before bed, it acts like a slow drip IV of amino acids. It keeps your body building muscle all night long, and the best part, it does not stop your body from burning fat overnight. Alright, so anyways, this is the reference page, right? Just pause on it if you want to go to you know, the citations on each thing I made, right? But if this video helped clear up the confusion about protein, do me a huge favor and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below letting me know what your daily protein goal is. You know, I really enjoy talking to you about this. See you in the next one.